nice, guys. I hope everyone's having a great Tuesday, and I'm still, again, working out the lighting, but it's a very sunny day, and I just can't deal with this window, so I'll figure it out at some point. But I did just want to talk to you about some comments that Obama made today in Italy, and I think that they're very telling and honestly very tone-deaf, and I was really taken aback by them. So President Obama, I don't want to get off on the foot where, I know a lot of progressives hate President Obama, but I think that it's a mixed bag with him. I think he is a corporate Democrat, definitely. I do think he did some good things, and as Bernie likes to say, he represented this country with dignity, and I will give him credit for a bunch of things. But I won't give him credit for making any effort to get money out of politics. He really liked the system as is. I think he said something about how it's inevitable in his book. And I think, again, it's a mixed bag with him, but these comments were fairly offensive, in my opinion. So he said today in Italy at an event, people have a tendency to blame politicians when things don't work. But as I always tell people, you get the politicians you deserve, he said to loud applause. And if you don't vote and you don't pay attention, you get policies that don't reflect your interests. I think that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of yelling at people for, not supporting or not voting for Hillary Clinton and voting for Trump. As you know, President Obama kind of cleared the field for Hillary Clinton many years ago. They were plotting her eventual 2016 run years back. Some speculate that it was even part of the plan when she was appointed as Secretary of State, and President Obama had her back through and through. He kind of gutted the DNC. He put in Debbie Wasserman Schultz when he was president, and he was a full-on, full-fledged supporter of Hillary Clinton. They really were not the best of friends after that primary, but they kind of were bedfellows after, I believe President Obama had some campaign debt issues that the Clintons helped him out with. So again, not to get off on too much of a tangent there, but that was kind of Obama yelling at the American people saying, vote for what's good for you, vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for more globalism, vote for more corporate power, which he is also in favor of. And it's very condescending, and I'm around limousine liberals all the time, and they blame voters for not voting for what's good for them all the time. And this is just a limousine liberal, corporatist liberal talking point, or something that, he actually does really believe. And it's frustrating when you blame the American people for just not voting for the right type of corporate Democrat or the right bad candidate for them. And yes, there is a problem with poor white Republicans voting against their own economic interests, because they're seduced by this racist rhetoric and this scapegoating of individuals that are minorities in the country. Obviously, there's a significant issue with that, and that is by design, since the Southern strategy. But when you basically smugly kind of ignore those extreme institutional factors that have led people to this desperate situation, it really shows that you are out of touch with the electorate and that you are part of the problem and not the solution in the Democratic Party, as we already knew. So I think this kind of smug and tone-deaf statement really ignores, one, the factors that prevent people from voting. Voter suppression is a major factor. Lack of voter access, voter registration problems. People in many of these Republican states need to show photo ID, yet they don't need a photo ID and they can't get a photo ID when they are impoverished in these urban areas. And secondly, the fact that money completely corrupts our elections. So I want to give you guys a flurry of statistics and see if really the voters have absolute control over who they put in office. So according to these statistics from the Washington Post, this is from, these are pretty well known statistics, but I'm going to warm you up for it. Candidates who out-fundraised their opponents won 9 times out of 10. They were 9 times more likely to win elections in 2012. Winning congressional candidates outspent their opponents by 20-1. So that means that if you win by having the most amount of money, which is the overwhelming likelihood, you don't just have a little more money than your opponent, you have a lot more money. So that means you are the overwhelming corporatist candidate. Thirdly, winning candidates on average spent $2.3 million. Losing candidates on average spent $1.1 million. So that is over 2 times the amount of losing candidates. So that favors people who favor big money interests. That is obvious. Secondly, I cited this in my thesis, which I hope to get to you guys. Maybe I'll publish it at some point, but I'm kind of busy. This is an unbelievable statistic, and I want it etched in my gravestone. The professors Martin Gillens of Princeton and Benjamin Page of Northwestern University studied more than 20 years of election data, and this is the quote in their study. When the preferences of economic elites and the stands of organized interest groups are controlled for, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. Do the American people really have control over who they put in office, President Obama? The study continues. It took data, again, from nearly 2,000 public opinion surveys and compared what people wanted to what the government actually did. What they found was that the opinions of the bottom 90% of income earners in America has essentially no impact at all. That is from a study. So President Obama, it seems that no matter who the voters choose as politicians, the politicians are overwhelmingly not representing that 90% of the American people. How about gerrymandering, President Obama? That is an issue that you have apparently championed or are going to champion now that you're out of office. Another Princeton study found that in 2010, population clustering, aka gerrymandering, was responsible for a net shift of 9 to 10 House seats towards Republicans. The total effect of post-2010 redistricting added a net gain of 11 additional seats for Republicans. This combines 14 seats in 7 GOP-controlled states with 3 seats in 2 Democrat-controlled states. In other words, partisan redistricting in just 7 states created a distortion that exceeds the effects of population clustering in all 50 states combined. That is nuts. Gerrymandering is a massive issue, but yet President Obama still thinks that the American people have complete control over who they put in office. So, despite the country being overwhelmingly progressive, on nearly every issue, you're saying basically that they need to control their corrupt state governments and prevent them from drawing these redistricting lines. Like, what a high threshold you have for the average American voter that they have to be this engaged in the political process. Or could it actually be an institutional problem that you need to address? Lastly, the French turnout, which is widely cited, was 74%, and that was the lowest since 1969. It would be the highest in a U.S. election since 1896. They have weekend voting in France, and they don't have any voter suppression, really. So, yes, progressive issues would be unbelievably more widely represented if we had weekend voting, if we had better access to voting, or a voting holiday. But President Obama didn't champion any of those issues when he was in office. So he sat back, he allowed all this to happen, this gerrymandering, which now he's going to tackle, this no effort to expand the rights of voters, just an allowance of suppression continuously, didn't do anything about money in politics, and now he's essentially victim blaming and saying that these desperate people who turn to Donald Trump to, abate or help their economic prospects, now he's saying it's their fault for turning to him. Yeah, certainly some blame lies with Trump voters, but you have to look at the institutional framework, and you have to see that these people turned to Donald Trump not because he was the greatest candidate in the history of the world and because he adequately represented them to the T. I am of the fundamental belief that most Americans are good, but they turned to him because they did not see a better alternative, and he can't understand that. He can't understand that the corporate wing of the Democratic Party is not a viable option for many people in America. So, keep doing those $400,000 Wall Street speeches, Obama, but it's really not helping you get in touch with the American voter. And it's also really disconnecting you from the institutional issues that are actually affecting people and affecting the voting process on a day-to-day basis. Have a good day, guys.